In the kitchen where morning sunlight streamed through the window, Aiden watched his mother's back. Jennifer's warm voice echoed amid the steam rising from the frying pan. In the weekend morning's quietness, mother and son shared a peaceful moment. "Today we're having French toast. I'll drizzle plenty of maple syrup on it for you." "Thank you, Mom." Jennifer flinched for a moment at Aiden's smile. It was just like his father in the photograph. The gentleness in his eyes, the slight tension around his mouth, even his hand gestures, they were identical to those of the man whose memorial photo she still cherished after the divorce. Before breakfast, Aiden carefully pulled out a small box wrapped in pink ribbon. "I wonder if the baby will like playing with this," he said softly. He had spent a week choosing the adorable animal-shaped rattle. "I'm sure they'll love it." Even as she said this, a small worry sprouted in Jennifer's heart. The baby shower today. Would she once again feel her mother Patricia's piercing gaze? Even in yesterday's phone call, there had been coldness in her mother's voice. The aroma of toast on the table momentarily triggered memories of the divorce 3 years ago. In court, Patricia had outright tried to deny Jennifer's custody rights. Her mother's words, "She has no right to raise that child," still stung her heart. Since the announcement of her sister Ashley's pregnancy, the family atmosphere had definitely changed. Patricia fussed over her daughter's condition daily, monitoring everything from diet to exercise. Given that it was a pregnancy achieved through fertility treatments, her overprotectiveness was almost abnormal. Even when they happened to meet at the supermarket, she would check Ashley's shopping basket, removing any items containing additives. "Your child is my true grandchild." Jennifer had heard such words countless times. They seemed to deny Aiden's very existence. This tendency had only grown stronger since Ashley's pregnancy was confirmed. To Patricia's eyes, Aiden was the spitting image of her husband who had disappeared with his mistress 20 years ago. In the boy's innocent smile, she saw her past trauma. It had eaten away at her heart, turning into hatred. Even during worship at the megachurch, hatred would well up with her prayers. Her prayers to God had gradually transformed into vows of revenge. The previous day, Patricia had been in deep discussion with the hotel staff. There must be no mistakes in tomorrow's plan, she had given detailed instructions, making thorough preparations. There was something unsettling in her gaze. In the hotel lobby, she repeatedly checked her watch, clutching her phone, opening and closing the screen. Her fingertips trembled slightly. Meanwhile, Aiden carefully held the present for his coming cousin, thinking of kind gestures for Ashley. "I hope Big Sister's baby is born healthy," he had practiced saying in his room many times. Would he be able to say it without getting nervous tomorrow? In the mirror, his practicing smile reflected his father's image. That night, Patricia stared at a photograph in her study. It was their last family photo from 20 years ago. She gently traced her husband's face with her fingertip. Her expression mixed love and hatred. In her diary, one line was written in distorted handwriting. Like ink seeping into paper, thoughts of revenge had stained her heart. "Tomorrow, it all ends." At midnight, Patricia called the hotel again. Her voice asking, "Is everything ready for tomorrow?" was swallowed by the darkness of night. The hand placing down the receiver trembled slightly. Soft music played in the luxury hotel's banquet room. Pink and gold balloons swayed elegantly from the ceiling, and pure white tablecloths covered the tables. The aroma of hors d'oeuvres being brought in by catering staff wafted through the elegant space. The gift table was piled high with presents decorated with ribbons and lace, beside which the words, "Welcome baby," gleamed in gold. Aiden stood in a corner of the venue, repeatedly adjusting his bow tie. The navy jacket Jennifer had chosen was a bit tight, but he decided to bear with it for this special day. He mentally repeated the words he'd practiced since morning. "Aiden, don't just stand there. You're in the way of the guests." The boy stiffened at Patricia's voice. His grandmother, dressed in a gray silk dress, cast him a cold glance. Her expensive pearl necklace cast an eerie gleam under the fluorescent lights. Beside her, one of the staff in a black suit whispered something, and Patricia gave a small nod. Her fingertips could be seen trembling slightly. Invited guests arrived one after another. Ashley's colleagues, church acquaintances, relatives. More than 50 participants placed their gifts on the present table. The custom-ordered cake was 3 tiers high, decorated with adorable baby shoes made of sugar. Ashley greeted everyone with a bright smile, occasionally touching her belly with a happy expression. "Oh, thank you all so much," Ashley said, dabbing at her eyes. The ladies from the megachurch gathered around her, whispering words of blessing. Among them, Patricia wore a proud expression. 7 months pregnant with her large belly, Ashley sat on the sofa. Her pale pink maternity dress enhanced her happy expression. "I'm a little thirsty," she told her husband Michael. Though her typically worried husband immediately tried to offer mineral water, Aiden had already heard her words and was heading to the drink table. "Would you like this? The lemonade looks delicious." Aiden carefully approached Ashley, holding the glass of lemonade with both hands. Ice and lemon slices swayed refreshingly. Jennifer smiled at her son's pure thoughtfulness. His kindness had remained unchanged since childhood. However, that smile froze in the next instant. In a corner of the venue, Patricia was telling something to a staff member. Her eyes, like those of a bird of prey watching its target, followed Aiden's every move. The staff member gave a small nod and glanced toward the drink table. There was something unnatural in that gaze. "Watch out!" someone shouted as Aiden's feet became tangled. It felt as if someone had pushed him from behind. The glass tilted, and lemonade spilled onto the floor. Ice fragments rolled across the floor, and the yellow liquid stained the pure white carpet. Aiden fell to his knees near Ashley. "That's when it happened. Why did you put something in the drink?" Patricia's angry shout echoed through the venue. Her hand flew up, striking Aiden's cheek hard. A sharp sound cut through the air. Michael stood up protectively in front of Ashley. As Aiden's cheek swelled red, the boy desperately pleaded with a trembling voice. Large tears spilled from his eyes. "I didn't do anything. Really. Please believe me." Through tear-blurred vision, Aiden looked around. But no one seemed willing to listen to his words. The guests murmured, and some even started taking videos with their phones. The megachurch ladies covered their mouths, directing accusing looks at him. "Don't hit my son. Don't hurt Aiden." As Jennifer tried to rush over, one staff member bent down. He picked up an envelope from under the table. It was a light pink envelope with slightly wet corners. Could it be?" The staff member's voice trailed off. A look of confusion crossed his face as he stared at the envelope. The color drained from Patricia's face. Her hands began to tremble minutely. "Ma'am, about this envelope, earlier, I..." Those words transformed the atmosphere in the venue. Under the elegant decorations, time seemed to stand still. Only the party music played on emptily. Everyone held their breath, focusing on the envelope. Ashley let out a small groan, clutching her stomach. At her voice saying, "It hurts," Michael hurriedly supported his wife. Aiden, holding his swollen cheek, stared at his grandmother's transformed expression. Fear and confusion crossed her eyes. Before the envelope's contents could be revealed, Patricia grabbed her handbag with trembling hands. Her phone clattered to the floor. The screen displayed a history of careful exchanges with the staff. The date, time, and specific instructions. It clearly showed this was no coincidence. "Mom, what is all this?" Ashley's hoarse voice cut through the heavy air. Jennifer, holding her son tightly, trembled at the premonition of the coming storm. In her embracing arms, Aiden's small body shook. Under the luxurious chandelier of the banquet room, the family's distortions were about to be exposed. The lemonade stain spreading on the pure white tablecloth seemed to symbolize irreparable cracks, slowly expanding. "Really? I really didn't do anything." At those words, Patricia's expression filled with even more intense anger. Her white teeth clenched, her neck veins bulging with fury. "Be quiet. You always lie like that. Just like him." Jennifer's arms tightened around her child. At her mother's scream, Aiden's body trembled minutely. "Aiden doesn't lie. What were you planning?" Jennifer's voice mixed anger and sadness. The memory of the divorce trial 3 years ago came back vividly. Then too, her mother had tried to deny Aiden's existence. Ashley sank deep into the sofa, breathing with difficulty. Michael gently rubbed his wife's shoulders while keeping watchful eyes. "Patricia, I've already called the police. Please stay away from Aiden until they arrive." Michael's words momentarily distorted Patricia's expression. But she quickly covered it with a smile. There was something maniacal about that smile. "Ah yes, it would be better to have the police come. Someone needs to stop this child's problematic behavior." Patricia pulled a paper from her handbag. It looked like a letter from the school counselor. However, looking closely, the date had been unnaturally erased. "Look at this. He's causing problems at school too. They say he has violent tendencies." "Mom, that's forged." Aiden is an excellent student. The teachers always praise him. Jennifer's voice shook. The invited guests watched the situation unfold with bated breath. There was also a stir among the megachurch ladies. Suddenly, Ashley let out a pained voice. Michael hurriedly took out his phone to call an ambulance. Patricia took advantage of the confusion to raise her voice. "See? This is what happens when this child is here." That's when the hotel's security manager in a black suit spoke up from the corner of the venue. "I apologize, but we'd like to check the security camera footage." Patricia's face tensed. The security manager slowly approached, holding the envelope the staff had picked up. His footsteps echoed ominously in the heavy atmosphere. "Actually, we received some concerning testimony from one of our staff members." The manager's words made the venue's atmosphere even more tense. Ashley, enduring her pain, watched her mother anxiously. There were special instructions from Patricia Sama from yesterday evening through this morning. Patricia's hands began to shake. "What are you saying?" I. Her words trailed off. At that moment, Ashley let out another cry of pain. This time it seemed stronger than before. "An ambulance! Quickly!" As Michael's voice rang out, Patricia suddenly reached for the envelope. However, the security manager quickly moved it away. "This might be important evidence. I cannot hand it over." At those words, Patricia's expression completely crumbled. Sweat on her forehead, trembling lips, bloodshot eyes. It was the face of an elegant lady whose mask had fallen away. I just wanted to protect my family, that child. Aiden watched his confused grandmother with sad eyes. The pain in his heart was greater than his swollen cheek. Just then, there was a commotion at the venue entrance. "Police! We received a report." Two officers walked through the tense atmosphere. Patricia sighed deeply, as if realizing everything. "Jennifer, you really are just like him." Patricia suddenly murmured in a calm voice. Her eyes no longer showed hatred, but deep fatigue. "Can't you understand, Mom? Aiden is innocent. Stop fighting the ghosts in your heart." Jennifer's voice echoed quietly through the venue. In her embracing arms, Aiden's trembling gradually subsided. The paramedics arrived and began checking Ashley's condition. Patricia just stared blankly at her crumbling plans. The police officers were receiving an explanation of the situation from the security manager. The truth hidden for many years was about to be revealed. Under the luxurious decorations of the banquet room, one family's deep wounds were quietly but surely being exposed. Aiden, face buried in his mother's chest, whispered softly, "Mom, I really didn't do anything." "I know, Aiden. It's okay now." Jennifer gently stroked her son's hair while facing forward with a dignified expression. In front of the police officers, the security manager opened the envelope. Inside were instructions written in Patricia's handwriting and bundles of cash. When she saw those words, Ashley let out a small scream. "Mom, why?" Ashley asked in a trembling voice as she lay on the stretcher. As the paramedics checked her blood pressure, deep sadness colored her pale face. The instructions detailed the entire plan. Bribing staff to trip Aiden when he carried the drink. Using the confusion to plant pre-prepared false evidence. Everything was a meticulous plan to banish Aiden from the family. That child must be eliminated. Patricia's voice echoed hollowly. Before the police officers, her elegant mask completely fell away. You don't understand, every time I see that child smile, I. Suddenly, Patricia's emotions exploded. Her voice cracked, and large tears spilled from her eyes. 20 years ago, he betrayed me. When I was attending couples counseling with church friends, trying to deepen our family bonds, he. With trembling fingers, she pulled out a worn photograph from her handbag. It showed a happily smiling couple. He left with his secretary. All that was left were debts and rumors at the megachurch. He took everything from my life. In his mother's arms, Aiden held his breath at his grandmother's confession. His young heart mixed understanding and fear of his grandmother. And Aiden's smile. That child is just like him. The same eye shape, the same gestures, the same kindness. Every time I see it, my heart is torn apart. Patricia collapsed into a chair. Her diary fell to the floor, its pages opening. There, in distorted handwriting, were various thoughts bordering on madness. Aiden's existence eats away at my heart. Ashley's child is the new beginning. Everything must end. Ashley, supported by the paramedics, began speaking in a trembling voice. I too noticed Mother's abnormality. But I didn't want to acknowledge it. After failing fertility treatments so many times, I finally conceived. Mother was so happy. I wanted to cling to that happiness. Michael squeezed his wife's hand tightly. You did nothing wrong, he whispered. Meanwhile, determination shone in Jennifer's eyes. Mom, that's enough. Aiden is not Dad. He's just a 12-year-old child. Don't make him the target of your revenge. At those words, Patricia's body shook violently. But I just wanted to protect my family, at least Ashley's baby, from this curse. A curse? Jennifer's voice strengthened. The real curse is the hatred in your heart, Mom. Look. You've destroyed the family with your own hands. In a corner of the venue, the megachurch ladies whispered prayers. Whether those prayer words reached Patricia's ears, she suddenly looked up as if coming to her senses. What have I? A police officer quietly approached and placed a hand on Patricia's shoulder. Ma'am, would you come with us to the station? At that moment, Ashley spoke with a determined expression. Mom, let's end this. We need some distance. Until this child is born, no, until your heart heals. The last color drained from Patricia's face. Her daughter's words were the final blow. No. Ashley, at least you. Mother, Ashley's voice mixed sadness and strength. You who can't even apologize to my sister and Aiden have no right to be this child's grandmother." With those words, heavy silence spread through the venue. The paramedics began preparing to transport Ashley, and the police officers helped Patricia stand. Aiden finally spoke. "Grandma, I was scared of you, but I didn't want to hate you. Because we're family." At those pure words, a tear rolled down Patricia's cheek. However, there was no going back now. The hatred nurtured over 20 years couldn't be healed by this moment of regret. Jennifer and Ashley quietly watched their mother's back as she was escorted away by the police. The sisters exchanged silent glances, preparing themselves for the long road ahead. 1 year later, soft sunlight streamed into a house in the Houston suburbs. The living room echoed with a baby's joyful laughter. "Look, Emma. Let's play with your big brother." Ashley held out her adorable smiling daughter to Aiden. The 13-year-old boy gently lifted the baby. Her tiny hand touched his cheek. The pain from that day had long since faded. "Emma's grown so much." Jennifer brought in coffee. Weekend afternoons had become a tradition for the sisters' families to gather. The aroma of homemade apple pie wafted over the table. "The pie smells delicious." At Aiden's words, Ashley gave a gentle smile. Her expression no longer showed traces of her previous anxiety. "Today's your last counseling session, isn't it?" Ashley quietly asked. Aiden gave a small nod. "The doctor says I'm okay now. But if I ever want to talk again, I can go back." Sessions with the trauma care specialist had helped greatly in healing Aiden's emotional wounds. Though he used to often wake from nightmares, he now sleeps peacefully. "I was so happy when you were the first one to come see Emma when she was born." At Ashley's words, Aiden smiled shyly. That day, he had gently waved at the tiny life through the nursery window. His pure love was obvious to everyone. "I think we've grown stronger than before," Jennifer said as she set down her coffee cup. The sisters nodded silently to each other. The events of that day had certainly torn the family apart. However, they had also become the catalyst for nurturing new bonds. "I think about Mom sometimes." Ashley's voice trembled slightly. Holding Emma, she gazed out the window. Patricia, now living in a nursing home, still refused visitors. After being expelled from the megachurch, people gradually left her life. According to the nurses, she spent her days continuing to write in her diary. "Yesterday, I got a call from the home," Jennifer said quietly. "Mom still." "I know," Ashley interrupted. "The hatred in Mom's heart hasn't disappeared yet." They said her diary still contained thoughts written in distorted handwriting. Hatred cultivated over 20 years doesn't easily fade. It had become chains eternally binding Patricia's heart. "But we have to keep moving forward." At Ashley's words, Michael poked his head out from the kitchen. In his hand was Emma's bottle. "Yes," Jennifer nodded. "Mom chose her path. That's her life. We have our own happiness." Aiden continued playing silently with Emma. The tiny life gazed at him with an innocent smile. Those eyes showed no trace of the past. "Hey, Aiden," Ashley called out gently. "Emma's christening is next month. Would you be her godfather?" The boy's eyes widened in surprise. "Me, a godfather? But there's no one more suitable than you," Ashley said with a serious expression. "Pure, kind, and strong-hearted, I want you to be Emma's spiritual guide." A small tear rolled down Aiden's cheek. But these were no longer tears of sadness. They were warm tears of feeling the bonds of their new family. Michael smiled as he warmed Emma's bottle. Pleasant sounds of dinner preparation echoed from the kitchen. The sweet aroma of apple pie filled the room. Outside the window, the autumn sunset cast a warm light. The sky looked clearer than that day a year ago. The chain of hatred had truly been broken here. Emma's eyelids fluttered sleepily. Aiden gently returned the baby to Ashley. The sisters smiled as they watched this new form of family. Surely a wonderful light will shine on this child's future. Everyone quietly nodded at Jennifer's words. They knew they had gained the strength to overcome past wounds and believe in the future. The evening living room was filled with warm light. It was the light of hope for their new family.